Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on FPL Now. Today I'm going to be going over my final thoughts and just overall game week preview for game week 8. So if you're excited for the video, make sure to drop a like down below, leave a comment, what are you doing with your team this week, subscribe if you're brand new, and let's get into the video. So starting things off, going into game week 8, this is how my team is shaping up at the moment. I do have 2 free transfers in the bank, which I'm going to obviously be using this week, and I'm most likely going to be taking a hit. I've decided against wildcarding this week, and I'll go over that momentarily. But first of all, I've got Edison in goal away at Wolves. Trent's not playing. Cancelo away at Wolves. Trippier at home to Bournemouth. I've got Reed and Andreas Pereira away at Forest. Salah obviously not playing. Martinelli away at Brentford. Stansfield is on loan to Exeter, I do believe, so he's going to be going this week anyway. Haaland away at Wolves, who's going to be my captaincy this week, and then Jesus away at Brentford. And then obviously I've got no players on the bench that can come on, apart from Ward, who's away at Tottenham, but obviously I can't have 2 goalkeepers. So yeah, that is how my team is shaping up for game week 8. And again, I do have 2 free transfers. So this is kind of the situation that I'm in. So I've got 0.4 in the bank, and as I said, I've got 2 free transfers, and obviously I'm not wildcarding this week, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to wildcard this week, and that's simply just because I can field a strong 11, not necessarily a strong 11, but like a decent 11 with just 1 hit. Like, I'll get rid of Stansfield this week, Salah and Trent, and then that'll allow me to have a starting 11. The only problem with it is obviously it's Reed, who's going to be in my midfield, and I mean, there's away at Forest. He's only going to get, he's a 2-point merchant, like, let's be honest, like, he's played so far back. He might get a lucky 40-yard screamer. I mean, it might happen, you never know, but he's basically going to be 2 points. So, technically fielding 10, but I have to take a hit if I want to bring in the players that I want to bring. That's why, you know, instead of just fielding 10, I have to kind of field 11 and take the hit. But either way, this week, because obviously they wouldn't be playing anyway, it's technically a -2. Like, if I take Stansfield out for Kane, you know, Stansfield wouldn't have played anyway, so that would have been 0 points. Then obviously if I bring Kane in, it will be a -4, but I'll just get 2 points back from that. And then anything that Kane does is just a bonus. So if Kane does score, which again I think he will at home to Leicester, you know, I think it'd be obviously the right decision. So that's where I'm at. I have to take a hit this week. Obviously I'm not wildcarding. I like the safety net of wildcarding in game week 9 for the international break. And as well as that, I'm going to be offloading like all my Arsenal players apart from Martinelli. I mean, the thing about the blank in game week 12 for City and Arsenal, obviously I'm going to be getting rid of Edison. And then Cancelo I'd probably keep. I'd probably keep Cancelo, Haaland, and Martinelli. And then when that kind of blank comes around, then I could just drop Cancelo for Trent or something like that and bring him back around game week 12. Because obviously that's when Trent has West Ham at home, so that's an okay fixture. So I could easily bring him back in that game week. But this is, like I say, this is my idea. So Stansfield's going to go this week. I think he might even have a price drop soon anyway. And Salah's going to go this week as well because he's the money man. A lot of people are going to get rid of him on wildcard anyway. And then also I'm going to be getting rid of Trent this week as well. So the spine of my team is going. And then I'm going to be bringing in, I mean, I don't really have the luxury of deciding between De Bruyne or Kane because I can't. Like, I already have 3 City players. I already have Edison, Cancelo, and Haaland, so I can't bring in De Bruyne. So De Bruyne is just off the table. So it's either Son or Kane. And from form, like, Kane is definitely the way to go. The only bad thing about that is it blocks me from bringing in Mitrovic. So the idea is basically, like, do I like Son and Mitrovic more than Kane and Bowen? Because Bowen, I think, is going to be the player that I bring in for game week 8. Again, these are players I'm just going to have for a 1-week punt because I'm going to game week 9 wildcard. Like I said, just like the idea of having unlimited transfers over the international break. If there aren't any injuries or anything like that, then it'll just be like my safety net. There's nothing wrong with wildcarding in game week 8, and a lot of people have to do it, but you know, the worst case scenario is like 2-3 players could get injured over the international break, and then, you know, what you kind of screwed then. So that's the only reason I don't like wildcarding just before the international break. As well as that, the wildcard is only really going to cost me a -2 as well. And again, if the player that I bring in for that -2 pops off, like if Kane gets a brace against Leicester, then it's just perfect. So yeah, that's why I'm not wildcarding. And I know I'm missing out on a few players as well that a lot of people are going to be bringing in on wildcard, like Mitrovic and stuff. But I think, you know, the likes of still having Jesus, which a lot of people are going to be getting rid of on wildcard, and stuff like that, I think potentially could, you know, if Jesus does score, it will help me out against other people that are wildcarding. But anyway, this is what I'm likely going to do. So I'll bring in Kane this week for game week 8. So again, he's not going to be my captaincy. I mean, like Leicester at home is a really good captaincy choice for Kane. I just can't really go against Haaland at all. I know Haaland just played last night in the Champions League, but I don't think he's going to get rested. I think that City have to kind of win, like, you know, the game against Wolves. Wolves are really annoying to play against. I mean, Kane potentially, I just don't have the balls to do it, man. I just don't have the balls. But anyway, for Salah, I bring in Bowen, and then that gives me 5.8 mil in the bank. Obviously, I have to make the 3 transfers because I wouldn't be able to get rid of Trent and bring in Bowen and Kane. I could obviously bring in Mitrovic instead of Kane and Bowen, and then that would obviously be fine. I wouldn't have to take a hit, but I'd only be able to field 10 players. So again, this week, I'm just going to have fun with it. You know, I can take some punts, some one-week punts. I know I'm just going to wildcard them out next week. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So Bowen's going to be one player. My defender is the one that I'm really not sure on. Like, if you're on a wildcard this week, then a lot of people will be bringing in Bowen, but there's also the options of like Zaha and Maddison as well. Like, after game week 8, Maddison's got some really nice fixtures. After the blank in the Chelsea game, Zaha's got some really good fixtures. Obviously, Bowen's got good fixtures straight away, like Everton, Wolves, Fulham, and then Southampton. So yeah, if you're on a wild card, it's a little bit more of a tough decision. But obviously, I'm not going to be bringing in Maddison or Zaha for a one-week punt because Zaha's not playing this week and Maddison's got Tottenham. So Bowen, I think, is the best player to bring in this week for a one-week punt, which is exactly what I'm doing. And then at the back, yeah, like there's one of 3 options really. So the first option is obviously bringing in another Newcastle defender because that just kind of helps me out with the double Newcastle defense, which a lot of people are bringing in on wildcard this week. A lot of people are going Pope, Trippier, double up. So if I bring in Shaw, yeah, Pope could make saves and stuff like that, but I don't think he's really going to against Bournemouth. And if Shaw decides to score another wonder goal, then it'll be great, like he did against Forest. But that kind of just helps with the double Newcastle defense, or any kind of Newcastle defender really, along with Trippier. I'll have to decide on the day. But either way, Trippier and Shaw is my double Newcastle defense. Or I could go for Perisic, who's obviously one of the Spurs defenders. The only problem with this is that he did start in the Champions League midweek. So whether he starts at home to Leicester, like if he starts, perfect. But if he doesn't, it's really risky because then if obviously like I have to bring in players that I know are going to start. And Perisic, I'm not sure is going to start because if I bring him in for a -4 and he doesn't play, I've just took a -4 for no reason whatsoever. So that's why I don't really want to go Perisic. It's just a little bit too risky for me. I could go for Dyer instead, who's, you know, obviously a lot more like solidified as a player that's going to play in that back line. It's just a centre back though. It's just a little bit boring. And I just think if I'm going to bring in a centre back, it's probably better to bring him in against Bournemouth at home instead of Leicester at home. And then the other option is who's my other option? Oh yeah, I could bring in a West Ham defender like Soufal or something like that. Away at Everton. Not the most exciting pick, but it is another player that I could potentially bring in. But I don't know. For me, I think it's just a little bit smarter to go for double Newcastle defense. And it could be Shaw, it could be Target as well. Matt Target I could bring in as another player. Maybe a little bit more exciting to bring in than Shaw. I mean, it can literally be any player. But yeah, apart from that, I think that's what I'm going to be doing for game week 8. So I'm going to obviously take a hit. But again, it's basically just a -2. And again, if any of these players get a return, then it's obviously just kind of cancelled out the -2 and got me points. So if I get a clean sheet from Target, which potentially could happen because of the Bournemouth game, then that's obviously really nice. If Bowen or Kane score, then obviously it just helped me out a lot. So that's kind of what I'm looking like for game week 8. Obviously a lot of people have asked like a lot of questions on like wildcards and stuff this week. Obviously I made wildcard drafts this week and stuff. The only thing that you have to really think about being on a wildcard this week is of course the Arsenal City blank in game week 12. You're not going to have a lot of Arsenal players on your wildcard anyway, so I don't think you have to worry about it too much. But a lot of people are going to have triple City and probably Martinelli as well. And so that's obviously something you have to think about down the line. Like if you have De Bruyne, Cancelo, Haaland and Martinelli, you're obviously going to have to transfer a couple of those out before game week 12, unless your bench is, you know, relatively strong. But yeah, apart from that, going into game week 9, I'm going to be using FPL Team for this because I mean, I'm going to wildcard anyway, but technically I don't necessarily need to. Let me just bring in Pereira and Reed for these players, and let me bring in my transfers as well. So let me just quickly get rid of Salah for Bowen, who obviously I'm going to play this week. So get rid of Stansfield as well for Kane. Hang on, I'm not really used to using this too much. Let me bring in Kane for Stansfield. Bring in you, and then for Trent, I'll just bring in. Let's just say I bring in, I don't know, a Newcastle defender. Let's just say Shaw. So obviously Shaw play over Dunk, Bowen would play over Diaz, and then Kane would play over James. So this would be what my team looks like for game week 8 if I did go that way. So obviously I've got my double Newcastle defence, I've got my midfield there, and I've got my up front that. Obviously Kane would be my vice captain, obviously. And that would be it for game week 8. But moving on to game week 9, like, do I necessarily need to wildcard? Like, double Newcastle defence away at Fulham. I mean, Man United at home for City, that could go either way, really. Obviously, I'd play Diaz instead of Reed this week. I'd play James for Crystal Palace, probably instead of... I don't really know, to be fair. Like, maybe instead of Martin... yeah, probably instead of Pereira. And then I'd have one free transfer as well. So I could bring Mitrovic in this week for game week 9. Who's obviously got Newcastle at home. I could do that. Not the greatest thing, because obviously I've got 2 Newcastle defenders playing my striker, but that'd just be the situation. And then obviously game week 10, because the other fixture swing is like game week 12, and I'm just wondering, could I survive to game week 12? Like, this is game week 10. Could I get to game week 12 without having to use like a wild card? I don't know. Probably I could, but I just think it'd be a lot more beneficial to wild card in game week 12. But either way, though, those are my to game week 9, I mean. But anyway, those are kind of like my final thoughts and game week preview for game week 8. Again, I don't think there's really a wrong answer. I think it's everybody's team is different. If you feel like you need to wildcard in game week 8 because you just don't have any players playing, then obviously you wildcard in game week 8. I think if you can field 11 with just a -4, I don't think you necessarily need to wildcard this week. And as long as you can, like, if you're using transfers and you can combat the big players that people are bringing in on wildcard, like your Mitrovic's, your double Newcastle defense, etc., I don't think it's that bad at all. Obviously, I don't have Mitrovic, so watching the Forest game is going to be horrible. But either way, I mean, the City ground's a tough place to go. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Forest fan, but it's quite a tough place to go. So, you know, Forest could even win that game, like 1-0 or something, or whatever. But either way, that's going to be everything for the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you're brand new. Best of luck with game week 8, and until next time, peace.